Welcome to this Angular Pivot Table tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to change the look of the cell and value fields of the pivot table component using a built-in cell template and conditional formatting properties. Look at this example where you can see the pivot table cells are customized with profit, neutral, and loss icons based on the measured data. A green and pink background color was applied to the pivot table cells by setting the conditions for the measure values. Now I will demonstrate how to add icons to the Angular pivot table cells based on the measure fields. First, I will open an existing Angular pivot table application where I have already configured the pivot table with basic properties and bound electric power revenue data to it. If you want to know how to add a pivot table to an Angular application, I have linked the Getting Started video in the above YouTube card and the description below. Now let me run this application using the command ng-serve. So here, you can view the pivot table with defined columns, rows, and value fields. Next, I want to display pivot table cells with different icons. To achieve that, I am going to use the cellTemplate property. As a first step, I declare the public variable cellTemplate with the type string. Inside the ng-on-init method, I assign the HTML spent element with appropriate class names in string format. Then I assign this string variable to the cellTemplate property. To retrieve the pivot table cell value, I need to access the pivot table instance. Let me first add a reference variable to the pivot table. Inside the app component, I set the viewChild directive with the template reference variable pivotView to get the reference. And I will create instance for pivot table component. To use this class, I need to import it from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Pivot View package. To customize cell appearance based on data, I set the dataBound event with the event handler trend. Then I implement the trend method. Inside this method, I define the cTable variable of type HTML element array, assign the elements with a class name eTable, and convert the result into an array of HTML element. Next, I implement the forEach method to target cell values selectively. The outer for each loop iterates through each row in the pivot table, and the inner for each loop iterates through each cell in the row. I define the variable ri, and assign the row index obtained from the index attribute of the current cell node. I define the current value and assign the selected cell value to it. Next, I add the if condition to check if the node has the class temprap. And I set the class name temprap PV icons to the selected cells. I'm going to set 3 different icons for the cells based on their values. So I set the profit icon for cells when their value is greater than 175. Similarly, I added 2 more conditions for cells with values greater than 100 and greater than 0, setting icons for neutral and loss respectively. Along with this, I have defined a few CSS styles for these icons and alignment within the app component CSS file. See how the pivot table visually represents data. Green icons mark values above 175, blue ones represent those exceeding 100, and red icons indicate values greater than 0. Next, I will show you how to change the appearance of the pivot table cells using conditional formatting. I'm going to apply conditional formatting during runtime by invoking the toolbar in the pivot table. So first I set the show toolbar property to true. Then, I define the public variable toolbar options with the type toolbar items. To use this type, I need to import it from the Pivot View package. I add the toolbar options value as conditional formatting inside the ng-on-init method. I assign this toolbar options variable to the toolbar property. To apply conditional formatting, I set the Allow Conditional Formatting property to True. To use the toolbar and conditional formatting, I need to import the conditional formatting service and toolbar service modules from the Pivot View package and import them into the Providers section. Look at this pivot table. It contains the conditional formatting toolbar option at the top left corner. When I click this option, the conditional formatting dialog opens. In it, I can set n number of conditions to format this cell. Now I will add a condition by clicking the Add button, which allows me to customize the cells based on the measure values, operators, and values. I will set the measure value as revenue growth. The condition is less than and the value is 100. I format the cell text color to be red and the background color to be yellow, and then click Apply. The revenue growth values less than 100 are now formatted with a red font color and yellow background. Next, I will show you how to apply this conditional formatting programmatically. I'm going to apply formatting for the cells that have a production cost value less than 100. For that, I add the conditional format settings property inside the data source settings and set the measure property to production cost, condition to less than, and value 1 to 100. To customize the font and background for the cell, I define the style property, and inside it add the background color, font family, and font size with appropriate values. And now you can see in the pivot table, the revenue growth less than 100 is formatted with a red font color and yellow background. If I want to apply this conditional formatting to all the value fields, then I need to remove the measure property from the conditional format settings, so that this conditional formatting will be applied to both the measure fields. As you can see, if the power units and revenue growth values are less than 100, then the appropriate colors are applied. In this video, I have shown you how to customize the appearance of the Angular Pivot Table cells using a cellTemplate and apply conditional formatting to a specific value field programmatically, as well as to all the value fields. If you want to try out the example used in this video, you can download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also shared a link to where you can learn about obtaining a free license key to use our Angular suite through our community license if you are eligible. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like it and subscribe to our channel.